The stars of the Serani cluster burned faintly in the void, their light dim compared to the growing shadow on the edge of the galaxy. Entire colonies had fallen silent, their signals cut off in moments of terror. The ecliptics, ancient machine swarms that consumed all life and metal, were spreading again. No one in the Galactic Coalition knew why they had awakened. But they did know one thing. Nothing stood against them for long. The Coalition Council, a gathering of 20 alien races, sent messages across every known channel. Their words were filled with desperation, begging for aid from allies, neighbors, or even strangers. Ships fled, worlds fortified their skies, and still the ecliptics came. In their panic, the Coalition directed a wide-range SOS into deep space. The message was simple: help us. Anyone who hears, please help us. What they did not know was that the signal would drift into the territory of a species they barely remembered, one spoken of in whispers and warnings. The humans. On board the human flagship Resolute, Admiral Kalen Ward listened as the translation officers replayed the alien broadcast. The voices trembled with fear, their words scattered between static and long silences. His crew exchanged glances. It was not the first time humanity had heard of alien distress signals, but this one was different. It was not a single planet asking for help. It was a cluster of civilizations facing extinction. Ward stood tall at the command deck, his eyes fixed on the projection of the alien worlds. His voice was calm, though every officer sensed the weight in it. Play it again. The message repeated, pleading, broken, hopeless. Ward's second in command, Captain Elira Voss, leaned closer. Sir, this is outside our patrol zone. Coalition matters are not our responsibility. We were ordered to secure the frontier, not chase unknown signals. Ward's gaze did not waver. And if we ignore it, Captain? What happens when this threat spreads beyond their cluster? What happens when it reaches us? The bridge fell silent. Humanity's history was filled with wars for survival. From the deadly storms of Earth's past to the struggles of colonizing toxic worlds, humans had been shaped by hardship. To them, survival was not a gift. It was a battle fought every day. Ward finally gave his order. Send word to the fleet. We set course for Serani. Their call has been heard, we answer. Light years away, in the Grand Council chamber of the Coalition, alien delegates argued without end. The Serani cluster's leaders trembled as they spoke of their worlds burning. The Duran, tall insectoid beings, demanded stronger defenses. The Mirians, frail avian scholars, pleaded for evacuation. Every voice carried fear and none carried hope. Where are our allies? One shouted. They do not answer. Another cried. The chamber lights dimmed as a communication alert appeared. The council fell silent. Someone had answered. The signal resolved into a fleet identifier. Many ships were on their way. Yet, as the code translated, confusion spread through the chamber. Humans, whispered a delegate. The name traveled like a cold wind. Long ago, explorers had cataloged them as a Deathworld species. Creatures shaped by a harsh planet filled with predators, diseases, and natural disasters. Reports described them as aggressive, unpredictable, and far too dangerous to be trusted with advanced technology. For centuries, most in the Coalition had avoided contact with them. And yet here they were. They cannot be allowed near our worlds, one council member protested. They are violent, another shouted. But they answered, said the Serani leader softly, her scaled hands trembling. No one else has come. Only them. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. The debate would continue, but the truth was clear. The humans were already on their way. The Deathworlder fleet emerged from jump space like thunder breaking through clouds. Their warships were massive, built not with elegance but with resilience. Armor plates scarred by past battles covered their hulls. Cannons lined their sides. Missile bays hummed with readiness and their engines burned with relentless energy. To the Coalition's observing ships, the sight was terrifying. These were not fleets built for defense, they were built for war. Inside the Resolute, Admiral Ward studied the alien planet below. Refugee ships filled the skies, engines sputtering, desperate to escape. He opened a channel. This is Admiral Ward of the human fleet. We have received your signal. Stand down your panic flights. We will secure your skies. The translation carried across frequencies. On the surface, alien leaders listened in disbelief. The humans did not ask permission. They did not wait for diplomacy. They gave orders like commanders who already owned the battlefield. Still, the Serani governor responded, his voice hesitant. "Humans, we did not expect you." "Why have you come?" Ward's reply was steady. "Because you asked for help." In the following hours, human ships moved with disciplined precision. They established orbital defense lines, scanned for swarm signatures, and directed refugee traffic into safer lanes. Their officers barked commands without hesitation, and their soldiers carried themselves with the quiet confidence of survivors. The Serani citizens watched in awe and unease. These humans looked nothing like the gentle envoys of other species. They wore armor, bore scars, and spoke with blunt honesty. Their eyes seemed to measure everything, every risk, every weakness, every possibility of danger. Some whispered that they had invited predators into their skies. Others whispered something else. Maybe predators were what they needed. That night, under the alien stars, Admiral Ward stood at the observation deck of the Resolute. Beyond the glass stretched the Serani world, fragile and trembling under the shadow of the swarm. His reflection stared back at him, lined face, gray hair, eyes hardened by decades of command. He thought of Earth, of humanity's long road to the stars. How many times had they been called reckless, violent, too wild to survive in the galaxy? Yet here they stood, answering a cry no one else dared to face. "Sir," said Captain Voss, joining him quietly, "the Serani do not trust us. Many of the council members want us gone." Ward's lips curved into a thin smile. "They don't have to trust us. They just have to live long enough to see why we came." Outside, the stars glimmered faintly. In the distance, hidden in the void, the ecliptics gathered. Machines without fear, without pity, moving closer with every silent hour. And waiting for them for the first time in centuries was a species that had never learned how to surrender. The first human warships entered the Serani cluster with the subtlety of a storm. Massive, angular, and heavily armed, they glided past fragile alien scouts as though gravity itself bowed to their presence. Where the coalition had expected diplomacy and cautious observers, they found the raw presence of a species that had survived worlds most would consider uninhabitable. On the Serani capital world, the council chambers erupted in panic. Holoscreens displayed the fleet in orbit, ships far larger than any the coalition possessed, moving with precise coordination that suggested years of rigorous training. Each vessel's hull bore battle scars, burns from unknown fights, dents from collisions, and yet every ship held itself upright as though defying the universe itself. The alien leaders had prepared for diplomats, envoys, perhaps even fragile scientists, but not warriors. Not the kind of warriors who radiated danger without even firing a shot. "We were not expecting this," stammered Governor Silik, a lithe Mirian with feathered wings folded tightly against his back. "These humans, they are not what we thought." His words carried little comfort. Across the chamber, the insectoid Joran representatives clicked in nervous rhythm, their multi-jointed limbs trembling. "They are predators," one hissed, "built for killing." The humans, meanwhile, were oblivious to the whispers and speculation. Inside the Resolute, Admiral Kalen Ward and his bridge crew had already begun assessing the coalition fleets. They were unarmed in terms of combat readiness against the swarm, but for humans this did not matter. "We need to know their strength," Ward said, voice low but firm. "We are not here to conquer, but we are not here to be gentle either. Prepare scanning sweeps. Identify defenses. Determine evacuation routes." "Sir, the aliens may resist our actions," Captain Voss cautioned. They could see this as a threat. Ward's eyes hardened. "They asked for help. If our presence frightens them, that is their problem. We act to save lives, not to please bureaucrats." The first transmission from the humans stunned the coalition. Where previous allies had sent tentative messages, the humans spoke directly. "We are here to secure your worlds. Prepare your population for evacuation if necessary. Follow our instructions." The translation units repeated the words verbatim, but the alien leaders could barely comprehend them. No diplomatic niceties, no carefully measured tones. Just clarity, decisiveness, and command. "Prepare," Governor Silik whispered. "Who speaks to us like this?" The human response was simple and immediate. Fleet shuttles descended into orbital corridors, marking landing zones, scanning for hazards and issuing evacuation instructions directly to colony administrators. Refugee ships were guided toward safer zones, Alien patrols redirected and critical defense nodes reinforced. The aliens stared in disbelief. In centuries of Coalition history, no species had ever operated with such speed, such decisiveness, and such dangerous confidence. "They are efficient," murmured a Mirian scholar, "almost frighteningly so." Meanwhile, the ecliptics began to close in. Scout drones probed the outskirts of the cluster, mechanical limbs glinting faintly as they moved. The aliens had hoped to prepare defenses, but the humans were already ahead. Admiral Ward called a meeting in the Resolute's command deck. Around him, officers consulted star charts, scanning reports, and strategic projections. Every scenario was grim. The swarm was relentless, adaptive, and numerous. Yet for humans, grimness was not defeat, it was a challenge. "We will not wait for them to attack," Ward said. "We strike before they can organize. Every colony we save now means fewer lives lost later. Prepare boarding crews. Prepare combat pods. We move in the first wave." Captain Voss raised an eyebrow. "Sir, you would send them forward now. Without coordination with the Coalition? Coordination comes with hesitation," Ward replied. "Hesitation kills. We act first, then coordinate. We are not diplomats. We are humans." The first human warship, Ironclad, entered orbit over the colony of Virelia. The planet's surface was a mix of crystalline towers and sprawling cities. Alien architecture shaped over millennia. Evacuation shuttles moved slowly, many suffering from panic. Civilian fleets hesitated, unsure whom to trust. Then came the humans. Pods dropped from the Ironclad's hangars, their hulls armored, engines blazing. Human Marines moved like shadows across the planetary surface, securing landing zones, setting up emergency shelters, and coordinating with local authorities. A group of Serani engineers watched from a control tower, trembling. They don't wait for permission," one whispered. "They just act, and everyone listens." "Yes," said another. "And yet, they are helping. They could destroy us if they wanted, but instead, they save us." It was a revelation that unsettled even the most composed council members. Not all reactions were favorable. Some Coalition fleets took a step back, unwilling to trust these new allies. The Joran War Council sent warnings. "These humans are too dangerous. They may save you today, but tomorrow." Ward ignored them. He had seen the Deathworlders in action. He knew what humans could endure, what humans could survive. He had also seen what they could do when cornered, outnumbered, or fighting for survival. They were the species the galaxy underestimated, and that was exactly why they would prevail. "Prepare for contact with alien representatives," Ward instructed. "We are not here to intimidate. We are here to protect, but we do not step aside." The Coalition representatives arrived at the Resolute's bridge cautiously. A group of Mirians, Joran, and Serani elders entered, each moving with a mix of fear, curiosity, and suspicion. Their holographic forms flickered as they adjusted to the human communication protocols. Ward greeted them simply. "Welcome aboard. We answer your call for help. The swarm is approaching. We will fight. We will protect your people. No more, no less." The council members bristled. This was not the politeness they expected. No words of assurance, no delicate phrasing, no bows or reverence. Just truth, action, and resolve. Governor Silik stepped forward, his feathers raised in tension. "You speak boldly, human. How can we trust a species known for ferocity?" Ward's reply was calm, almost casual. "Because we survive. We survive when others fail. We survive when your fleets falter. We survive because that is who we are. Today we survive together." The words were not empty. Every member of the bridge crew, every Marine in the pods, every technician in the hangars, human or otherwise, understood the weight of survival. Humans had been forged in harsh worlds, fighting predators, diseases, and each other, and they had learned one lesson above all. Give up, and you die. Fight, and you live. Even as talks continued, reports arrived of ecliptic drones probing outer colonies. The humans did not hesitate. Ironclad, Resolute, and the rest of the Deathworlder fleet moved toward the swarm, their engines blazing trails of fire in the darkness of space. Coalition leaders watched, torn between fear and awe, as the humans engaged in maneuvers no alien fleet could match. On the surface of Virelia, civilians watched human pods touch down, providing supplies, medical aid, and protection. Children stared with wide eyes at armored Marines moving swiftly through the streets, securing zones and keeping panic from spreading. For the first time in weeks, hope returned. Governor Seelick whispered to himself. Perhaps we misjudged them. Across the fleet, Admiral Ward stood silent, watching the stars. He knew the swarm would not wait. He knew the battle ahead would test everyone, alien and human alike. But he also knew this. Humans did not wait for the right species to answer. Humans were the right species because they would act when others hesitated. And when the swarm came, the galaxy would see why. The first night over Virelia ended quietly, but tension hummed beneath every surface. The humans had arrived, and they were nothing the Coalition had expected. Dangerous, unpredictable, ruthless in combat, but unwavering in purpose. The wrong species, perhaps, but the only one capable of standing against the shadow that crept toward them. As the stars gleamed coldly above, the humans prepared. For the first contact was only the beginning. The real trial, the battle for survival, was yet to come. The sky above the colony of Virelia burned with the reflected light of approaching war. The ecliptic swarm, a vast army of machine drones and metallic tendrils, advanced through the void, moving in patterns that seemed both chaotic and terrifyingly intelligent. Every moment they drew closer, the colony's fragile defenses became more hopeless against their relentless onslaught. On the orbiting human flagship Resolute, Admiral Kalen Ward studied the enemy. His eyes, hard and steady, took in the vast expanse of the swarm, the glimmering shards of metal and the deadly hum of the drones as they moved. "Status report," he ordered. Captain Voss's fingers flew over her console. "Swarm is 50 million units strong, sir. Scouting drones indicate they are massing on the colony's surface and outer orbital defenses. Coalition fleets are attempting formation, but they are slow and disorganized." Ward nodded. "Prepare the fleet for engagement. We hit them before they can encircle the colony. Humans don't wait for perfect conditions. We create them." Below, the Serani population watched the skies, their fear palpable. Many had fled to shelters or boarded evacuation ships. Some stared upward in awe as human warships moved into attack positions, their formations precise, disciplined, and unflinching. The first strike came as the human fleet engaged the swarm's forward scouts. Massive guns roared in space, beams of energy slicing through the drones like a scythe through wheat. Missiles streaked outward, exploding against metal hulls, while human fighters darted in and out of the swarm, agile and deadly. Admiral Ward's voice echoed over the fleet channels. "Do not hold back. Every drone we destroy is one less threat to this colony. Move fast, strike hard, survive together." On the ground, Serani engineers watched in disbelief as the swarm's advance faltered. The humans had not just defended the colony, they were attacking the enemy at its core. Their methods were unorthodox but devastatingly effective. Ships collided with drone clusters, blasting entire waves into pieces. Boarding pods dropped into enemy formations, deploying Marines who fought with weapons designed to tear through metal and circuitry alike. It's incredible," whispered one engineer. "They don't fight like anyone else. They survive everything." The Ecliptics adapted quickly. Swarms split into smaller, faster units, attacking human fighters with precision strikes. Some drones attempted to surround the fleet, but humans anticipated their movements. Kinetic shields flared, and specialized missiles intercepted them mid-flight. Captain Voss reported, "They're adapting faster than any species we've seen. But so are we. Our counter patterns are holding." Ward allowed himself a brief nod. "Good, keep pressure constant. We are not here to retreat." Then the first of the ecliptic heavy units appeared, towering machines armed with energy cannons and cutting arms. Their size dwarfed the humans' smaller vessels, but the humans did not hesitate. Ward gave a simple command. "Focus fire. Strike together. They die before they can strike us." The fleet responded in perfect unison. All weapons fired simultaneously, a storm of destruction tearing through the lead units. Explosions blossomed in the void. Metal twisted and folded, and the heavy units fell in waves. The humans pressed forward, using aggressive tactics that left the Ecliptics reeling. On the colony surface, human Marines deployed from pods with astonishing speed. Armed with plasma rifles and heavy cutting tools, they moved through the streets, intercepting any ground-level drones that had slipped through orbital defenses. Their armor glinted in the flickering lights of explosions, and their movements were swift, precise, and fearless. A group of Serani civilians watched from a secure shelter. "They are monsters," whispered one. "No," said another. They are heroes. Look at them. They fight like they were born for this. Human squads cleared streets, secured shelters, and escorted citizens to safe zones. Every movement was calculated, every strike deliberate. Even as the drones adapted and attacked from new angles, the humans adapted faster, predicting their movements and countering them without hesitation. Hours passed. The first wave of the swarm had been repelled, but at a cost. Human ships had sustained damage, some barely holding together. Fires burned across the hulls of a few smaller vessels. Marines had lost comrades in the streets below. Yet morale remained unbroken. Admiral Ward stood on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes scanning the chaos below. This is what humans do. We fight no matter the odds. We survive no matter the cost. Keep moving. Keep striking. Captain Voss shook her head slightly. Sir, you're sending them into near-suicidal situations. Ward's voice was steady, almost serene. No one survives without taking risks. These are not risks. They are the only way to win. As the sun of Virelia dipped below the horizon, the human fleet executed a daring maneuver. Ward ordered several of his ships to move directly into the densest part of the swarm. Coalition fleets gasped. It was reckless. It was audacious. It was human. The human vessels collided with the swarm, using brute force and sheer determination to break apart clusters of drones. Explosions lit up the orbit like artificial stars. The drones lashed out, cutting through shields and hulls, but the humans pressed on relentlessly. Below, Marines continued to clear streets, their presence giving hope to the terrified population. Citizens whispered their gratitude. They are saving us, one said, even though we feared them. The first battle was brutal, intense, and unforgiving, yet against all odds, the humans prevailed. The ecliptic advance was halted, and the colony was safe, for now. After the battle, the coalition leaders met with the humans on the Resolute. Their expressions were a mix of fear, awe, and disbelief. Governor Silic stepped forward, feathers still ruffled from stress. You fought without hesitation, without strategy meetings or debate. Why? Ward looked at him calmly. Because hesitation kills. We do not wait for the right moment. We create it. That is what humans do. A Mirian elder nodded slowly. Your methods, they are dangerous. You could have destroyed the colony in your attack. Ward allowed a faint smile. And yet we saved it. Humans do what others cannot. We survive, we win. That is the difference. The alien leader said nothing further, only stared. Their worlds were safe, but their minds were unsettled. The species they had feared, the species they had avoided for centuries, had not only come to help, they had saved them in ways no one else could. That night, as humans repaired their ships and treated their wounded, a quiet conversation occurred on the Resolute's observation deck. Ward stood looking at the stars. They will never trust us completely, he said. Captain Voss joined him. They should. You saved their lives. Ward's eyes were distant. Trust is not given. Trust is earned, and sometimes it is never earned. But survival. Survival is what matters. We saved them today. Tomorrow we fight again. Below, the Serani citizens slept, unaware of the danger that still lurked in the void. They had seen the humans, and though fear remained, awe had replaced despair. For the first time, they glimpsed a species that could face annihilation and refuse to bend. The ecliptics were not defeated. They would return. But the humans had arrived. They had struck first, struck hard, and shown the galaxy why Deathworlders were feared, respected, and perhaps misunderstood. And for Admiral Ward, Captain Voss, and every human in the fleet, that was enough. The first battle had been won. But the war was far from over, and the galaxy had yet to see what humans were truly capable of. The smoke of battle still hung in the skies of Virelia. The first wave of the ecliptic swarm had been repelled, but the scars were evident. Cities bore the marks of drones cut down mid-assault. Orbital defense grids flickered with temporary failures, and human warships bore damage from their relentless engagement. The colony had survived, but the tension among the coalition members was far from resolved. Inside the coalition council chambers, a storm brewed. Alien leaders argued fiercely over the humans. Some were grateful beyond words, recognizing that the Deathworlder fleet had saved millions of lives. Others were wary, still frightened of a species whose very presence radiated danger. Do you see what they are? Hissed a Duran delegate, limbs trembling in agitation. They are reckless, unpredictable, and too powerful. They may save us today, but what about tomorrow? A Mirian elder, feathers bristling with tension, added, "We invited them for help, but they operate on their own terms. They do not follow protocol. What if they decide the galaxy needs to be cleansed according to their rules?" Governor Silic, the Serani leader who had initially pleaded for aid, raised his voice, trying to mediate. "They have saved our people. Isn't that what matters? Yes, they are aggressive, but we are still here. Isn't that proof that their methods work?" The arguments did not end. The aliens debated, argued, and questioned the humans' intentions. Every conversation circled back to the same unease. These were species of legend, monsters or heroes, depending on whom one asked. On board the Resolute, Admiral Ward observed the rift forming among the coalition members. He did not care for approval, nor did he seek friendship. Humans did not fight for praise. Humans fought because it was necessary. Captain Voss approached him, her expression cautious. "Sir, the coalition is divided. They are beginning to see us as a threat rather than an ally. Some are even talking about restricting our access to the colonies." Ward's eyes narrowed. "Let them talk. Fear is easy when you have never faced what we have faced. When the swarm comes back, and it will, we need allies who act. If they want to debate while their people die, that is their choice. We do what must be done." Voss exhaled sharply. "And what about the swarm?" This was only the first wave. "They'll adapt. They'll come back stronger." Ward's lips curled into a thin, grim smile. "Good. Humans are better at adapting than machines. They'll find out why soon enough." Meanwhile, on the surface of Virelia, civilians tried to rebuild their lives. Shelters were repaired, emergency supplies distributed, and children returned to school under careful supervision. Human Marines patrolled the streets, ensuring that peace was maintained while remaining vigilant for any residual threats from the ecliptic drones. In one of the temporary command centers, a group of coalition officers studied the data relayed by human ships. They observed every tactic, every engagement, every pattern. Slowly, realization began to dawn. "These humans," murmured a Serani tactician. "They do not follow our rules. They do not fight like us. They think differently. Strategically, they survive differently. We cannot predict them." A Joran officer clicked in agreement, though fear laced the tone. "They are frightening. Not because they are evil, but because they are unstoppable in ways we do not understand." Even those who feared them could not deny the truth. Humans had changed the battle's outcome. Their intervention had saved countless lives that the coalition alone could not have preserved. Tensions came to a head during a coalition briefing. Representatives demanded that the humans retreat from the cluster, fearing that their presence would create future problems. Ward entered the chamber without hesitation. "You called for help," he said simply. "We came, we saved your colonies. We repelled the swarm. What more do you want?" A Mirian delegate's voice quivered with frustration. "We want control. We cannot allow a species like yours to act unchecked. You are dangerous." Ward's response was calm but firm. "Dangerous, perhaps, but not to those we protect. You have seen what the swarm can do. You have seen what happens when hesitation rules. I am here because it was necessary. If you cannot trust necessity, then your people will face the consequences alone." The chamber fell silent. No alien dared contradict him further. Ward had spoken truth. Their survival depended on action, not debate. While negotiations and arguments continued, Ward convened a tactical meeting aboard the Resolute. Maps of the cluster glowed on the table, highlighting areas where the ecliptic swarm had been detected. Reports showed that the swarm was adapting quickly, shifting its strategies and probing weak points. "This is no longer a defensive operation," Ward said. "The swarm is learning. If we wait for them to strike first, they will overwhelm everything. We need a plan to end this threat before it spreads beyond the Serani cluster." Captain Voss frowned. "Are you suggesting a direct strike against the swarm's main hive?" "That would be suicidal, sir." Ward's eyes were steady, unwavering. "If we do not strike, they will come back and destroy everything. Humanity survives because we take risks. We win because we fight when others would hesitate. The swarm will learn quickly. We must hit the heart before it adapts completely." The other officers exchanged uneasy glances. No plan had ever demanded such audacity. Yet with Ward, the audacity seemed not reckless but inevitable. Word of the humans' proposed strike reached the coalition leaders. Fear escalated into panic. Some accused Ward of endangering not only humans but the entire cluster. Others argued that any attack should be carefully coordinated through the Coalition's combined fleets. Ward ignored the complaints. Coordination, in his experience, was only useful when it did not hinder action. He had fought through worse odds, survived worse battles, and emerged stronger each time. "We strike together," he said to his officers. "The swarm cannot be allowed to adapt further. They are machines, yes, but they have limits. Every swarm has a weakness. We find it. We destroy it." As preparations began, humans studied the swarm with meticulous attention. Every pattern of movement, every point of vulnerability, every behavioral trait was analyzed. They discovered that the ecliptic swarm relied on a central hive node for coordination. Destroy the node, and the swarm's organization collapsed. Ward called a meeting with his tactical commanders. "This is our target," he said, pointing to the glowing representation of the hive in the map. "We go in with everything we have. Ships, marines, weapons, everything. We strike at the center. We end this before it learns to fight back effectively." Captain Voss shook her head. "Sir, it will be a slaughter. We are walking into the swarm's home." Ward's eyes were resolute. "We are walking into the only chance for survival. The swarm will die or we will. That is the way humans operate. We do not flee. We do not hesitate. We fight." Back on the Coalition Council worlds, debates raged. Some leaders still opposed human methods. Some still feared their presence. But all acknowledged one truth. Without the humans, the cluster might already be lost. Even the most skeptical delegates admitted that humanity had changed the game entirely. Governor Silik, speaking quietly to his advisors, said, "They may be dangerous, yes. But they are what we need. Perhaps the wrong species is the right answer." Across the galaxy, the Deathworlder fleet prepared for the most daring strike in history. Ships were repaired, weapons charged, boarding crews readied, and marines trained for infiltration. Every human knew the stakes, yet none hesitated. Survival was instinct, and humans were masters of survival. Ward walked among his crew, observing them silently. There was no fear, only focus. There was no doubt, only resolve. Every human aboard the fleet understood the mission: strike hard, strike fast, and leave nothing alive that could threaten the galaxy. The rift between humans and aliens might grow, but the humans did not care. The galaxy had one chance to survive the ecliptic swarm, and they would take it, regardless of whether anyone trusted them. Above Virelia, the night sky glimmered with stars, and somewhere in the darkness the swarm waited. Machines without mercy, without hesitation, moving closer with every silent hour, and waiting for them in the shadow of human ships was a species that had never known surrender. A species that thrived on risk, courage, and relentless determination. A species that was about to show the galaxy why humans, though feared, were exactly what the universe needed. The real trial was coming. The first battle had been won, but the war and the choices that would define the survival of the cluster were only beginning. The void beyond the Serani cluster was alive with movement. The ecliptic swarm, vast and menacing, pulsed with mechanical precision. Millions of drones shifted and reformed, a living shadow of metal seeking to consume everything in their path. Every orbit, every colony, every fleet was a potential target. Their intelligence was terrifying, but it was also limited. A hive mind with one core, one center of command. Human marines prepared quietly aboard the fleet. The Deathworlders had fought in countless battles, survived worlds that should have ended them, and walked paths that others would have called impossible. They had seen death and learned how to survive it. For them, today was no different. Admiral Kalen Ward walked the decks of the Resolute, eyes scanning the stars. "This is it," he said softly. "The hive. Every swarm has a heart. We find it, we destroy it. We survive, and we ensure the galaxy survives with us." Captain Voss joined him, her expression tight with focus. "Sir, the Coalition fleets—" They hesitate. Many want to coordinate fully, but our analysis shows that waiting will cost lives. Are you sure about this plan? Ward's gaze did not waver. Humans do not wait for permission. We do what must be done. Today we strike at the heart or all of them die. It's that simple. The fleet moved into position. Human warships led the charge, their engines flaring as they cut through the void. Coalition vessels followed reluctantly, some still fearful of the humans' audacity. On the bridge of the Resolute, the fleet officers monitored every approach of the swarm, every movement, every signal. Swarm core detected, reported Voss. Coordinates are locked. They're centralized in a nebulous sector near the cluster's edge. Defense is strong, but the pattern is predictable. Ward nodded. Good, that's all we need. Prepare boarding pods. Marines ready. Fire all offensive systems on my command. We end this today. The Marines, armored in reinforced exosuits, checked their weapons, tightened straps, and reviewed the plan. Silence fell over the hangars. Fear was not absent, it never was, but it was controlled. Survival demanded focus, and humans had trained for focus their entire lives. The first wave struck the swarm's outer defenses. Human warships plunged into the mechanical horde, their weapons firing in unison. Plasma beams tore through drones. Kinetic rounds shredded the hive's front lines, and missiles exploded in waves of destruction. The swarm lashed back, metallic limbs cutting through shields, energy pulses striking vessels. Yet the humans did not falter. They moved with precision, anticipating the drone's attack, striking weak points the swarm did not even know it had. Boarding pods dropped, Marines descending into the heart of the hive like shadows of death. On the surface of the central hive world, giant mechanical constructs rose to meet the humans. But the Marines, agile and relentless, darted between attacks, striking with weapons designed to dismantle machinery and override systems. They moved as one, a coordinated force of survival and fury. Inside the Resolute, Ward monitored the engagement. Keep pressure constant, he ordered. Do not let them regroup. Every drone we destroy is one less threat. Push forward. Strike fast. No hesitation. Captain Voss glanced at him, tension visible in her posture. Sir, the coalition fleets are holding back. They hesitate at the edge of the swarm. Ward's reply was calm, almost detached. Let them hesitate. They are not humans. Humans act. Humans survive. Today we do what must be done, with or without them. Outside, the void was filled with flashes of light and soundless explosions. The swarm fought with relentless adaptation, trying to counter the humans' tactics. Every maneuver the humans executed, every strike they made seemed almost impossible. But it worked. The swarm faltered under the assault, its organization slowly crumbling. The central hive loomed ahead, massive and terrifying. The humans targeted the command node, knowing that destroying it would collapse the swarm entirely. Boarding pods launched in rapid succession, carrying Marines deep into the hive's interior. Inside, the mechanical world pulsed with energy, circuits humming, machines moving with terrifying speed. The Marines advanced cautiously, neutralizing defensive drones and clearing corridors. Walls of metal and energy threatened at every turn, but the humans adapted quickly, improvising when necessary. Where machines expected hesitation, they found none. Where they expected fear, they found courage. One Marine, Sergeant Kalen Rowe, whispered into his comm. It's bigger than anything we've seen. But we move, we fight, we survive. His squad responded in silent agreement. The hive's hum filled the air, but the humans pressed on, relentless and unstoppable. The command core glimmered ahead, a massive orb of energy, pulsing with control signals. Destroying it would end the swarm, but reaching it required passing through the hive's most heavily defended corridors. Marines advanced, their weapons blazing, cutting through waves of drones. Admiral Ward watched the feed from the bridge. Every second mattered. This is it, he said. Push forward. The core falls, the swarm dies. No hesitation. No mercy. The Marines reached the core, planting explosive devices while neutralizing the last of the defensive drones. Wires hummed, circuits overloaded, and the explosives primed. One last glance at each other, then a retreat. The human fleet launched a final coordinated strike from orbit. Plasma beams, missiles, and kinetic rounds hit the hive simultaneously. The explosives detonated inside the core, and the hive erupted in a storm of fire, metal, and energy. The swarm began to collapse. Coordination failed. Drones fell into chaos, and the metallic horde dissolved into the void. Human warships pressed forward, finishing off remaining pockets of resistance. Within hours, the ecliptic threat in the Serrani cluster was neutralized. On the surface, coalition citizens watched in disbelief. Children stared, adults whispered in awe. Humans had done what no other species could. They had faced the swarm's heart, risked everything, and survived. Governor Seelig, standing with other coalition leaders, spoke quietly. They saved us, all of us, and yet they are nothing like we imagined. A Mirian elder nodded. We feared them. We judged them, and yet They were exactly what we needed. Ward's voice came over the universal comm channel, steady and commanding. You asked for help. You got us. Remember this. Humans do not flee. Humans do not hesitate. Humans survive. And sometimes, the wrong species is the right answer. The aftermath was both quiet and profound. Human Marines secured remaining hive remnants, repaired fleet damage and treated the wounded. Coalition fleets, many still shaken, moved cautiously alongside the humans, learning from their methods, their efficiency, and their courage. Ward walked the decks of the Resolute, observing his crew. No one celebrated. No one rested on pride. Humans did not need accolades. Survival and victory were reward enough. Captain Voss approached him. Sir, they fear us, but they also respect us. Some may never trust humans fully, but they know we saved them. Ward's gaze lingered on the stars. Trust is unnecessary. We acted, we survived. That is all that matters. They may remember the lesson or they may not. But humanity's place in this galaxy is earned through action, not approval. Below, Coalition citizens began to rebuild. The human presence was strange, even unsettling, but undeniable. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never forget them. And somewhere in the void, far beyond the Serani cluster, other threats waited. Machines, stars, and darkness. But humans had already proven something extraordinary. No matter the danger, no matter the odds, they would rise. They would fight. They would survive. The wrong species had come. And for the first time, the galaxy understood why they were exactly the right answer. Admiral Ward stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars. The fight had ended. The swarm was destroyed. Lives had been saved. And yet he knew this was only the beginning. Humanity would always be tested, always face impossible odds, always be the species others underestimated. But the humans did not fear the challenge. They never had, and as the first rays of Virelia's sun broke through the smog of battle, Ward allowed himself the faintest of smiles. The galaxy just learned something. He whispered, never underestimate humanity. The Deathworlder fleet prepared to move on, leaving a cluster forever changed by the courage, cunning, and indomitable will of humans. The wrong species had arrived, and they had proven that sometimes only humans could survive, and save everyone else in the process.